Greetings, this is Count Murmur of Tine. I'm here to answer some questions about the band for death metal promotion, give everyone an opportunity to learn about Tine and some background information. And yeah, this is a great opportunity to learn about the band and the background of the band. And yeah, so I'll just, without further ado, I'll kick right off into the questions for death metal promotion. And yeah, we'll start with the first question, which is introducing the band to death metal promotion subscribers. So, Tine is a symphonic blackened death metal band. It was founded in 2011 by myself, Count Murmur. Um, Initially, the intent of the band was to form a basically a live band with members performing live shows, but it quickly became apparent that I could not find the members to achieve that goal. So I ended up setting out on my own and doing all the music myself, and ended up doing the first studio album myself, which is the Four Streams of Black. So Time very much the intent was to be a live performing band, but it ended up evolving into a studio project, basically due to lack of talented members in this area to perform with. So the intent is eventually to find live members to perform with, but for now the band remains just a solo project by myself. Initially, my wife also played in Tine. She just played the keyboard in the first album, but she took a back seat after that and just helps out with promotion and art and things like that. But Tine, is simply a studio band right now, solo project, and I've produced two albums. The Four Streams of Black and Merge Maris Profundi are the two albums. I'm working on a third album currently. The music of Tine combines black metal and death metal and symphonic metal into this amalgamation, basically. And I feel that it straddles the line of black metal and death metal. Some songs are more death metal influenced, some are more black metal influenced. But that gives an idea of the musical style of Tine. But it was always intended to be an actual live performing band. But I can never achieve that with the local talent in this area. So very much so. That dream is still not dead, but right now it is just just studio albums, and it's a solo project right now. So that's some background information about Tine. As far as what's the story behind the band name, so I actually came up with the not only the band name but the logo as well. The band name basically it's just representative of the music. It's cold piercing. It's a cold piercing name, and it's cold piercing music, and that's how I would describe Tine. The music and the name fit perfectly with the band, the theme, and the musical style. So there was no special secret to the name. It just came to me, just as many inspirations come to me, and it just that from there it evolved. And the logo, I actually created the logo as well, but it was digitally rendered by a close friend, and then later it was digitally rendered by an art studio for an improved logo for the newest album. But yeah, that's the basic story behind the name of the band. Nothing too special other than the name fit the music perfectly, and it just came to me in a stroke of inspiration. So as far as the next question, some insight into the creative process behind the current most recent album, Merge Maris Profundi. So essentially, the music of that album started off as a couple songs as I was writing them, it quickly felt like the music was taking on an aquatic character. So very much so, the theme of the music was taking on themes of oceanic and aquatic terror, things like that. So it basically it immediately it felt like that was going to be the theme of the album as I was writing the music. So the creative process was, it started off with a couple songs, and then as that theme started to become more apparent, the later songs I wrote for the album started following that theme as well. The inspiration started to flow, and that theme became apparent. So as far as how I write the songs, though, every song is different in how I write them. Some songs start with bass, some songs start with lyrics and vocals, some songs start with guitar. So every song is different in how I write them. So that album is no different in that way. I write everything is very organic, the way I write. So excuse me, I'm getting over a bit of bronchitis, so I have a bit of a cough, so apologies there. But yeah, as far as the creative process for the album, it was very organic, and it started off with a couple songs and it started taking on that aquatic character, and then other songs started becoming inspired by those songs, and then it just built up from there. So that's kind of the way that the creative process went for that album, and it just developed from there and into a full album. When I initially thought of doing a second album, it didn't even strike me as it would be that theme, but it just quickly became apparent as I was writing songs that would be the theme of the album. So it's interesting how that goes. And that's kind of what's happening with the new album that I'm writing now as well. So it's very interesting that's how the writing and the development of an album goes for me, but that's how it goes. So it's very interesting. And what themes, the next question is, what themes did I explore on the release? I think I covered that. So it's very much a dark aquatic. So there's a lot of themes on Cthulhu themes. From the Deep It Beckons is very much kind of almost like a take on the Loch Ness Monster, but what if it was something more terrible than that? So as an example, so that would be one of the themes. There's themes on for example, a cetacean dirge is a dirge on talking about like a whale. What if a whale losing its mate, and what is going through the stages of grief in this whale's mind. So it's very much a dirge in the viewpoint of a whale. So that's very, very interesting, that song. Each song kind of has its own little mini story to tell in that regard. So I would say the themes are very much aquatic in nature, but very much unique stories along those lines. And there's a lot of Cthulhu influence in that as well. So those would be kind of the themes that I explored on the release. And it's interesting because it's totally different than the first album, The Forest Dreams of Black, which was more dark and more forest, more themes along those lines, forest themes and dark themes. This was more aquatic themes and things of that nature. And the new album is actually taking on a totally different character. It's winter themes. So, and that's just the way it's developed. So, it's very interesting. The music kind of takes on a mind of its own as I'm writing, and it basically, I just follow where the music leads me. So that's basically how I go about it. So the next question is, can I explain the cover art and its connection to the music? So the cover art is actually has a very deep meaning. So the cover art for Merge Maris Profundi was actually it was created jointly by me and a professional artist who painted the cover. Um, I didn't paint it obviously, but the painter actually painted it under my direction. So they basically under my direction they painted my vision. So I told them what I envisioned for the cover, and they painted it to my vision essentially. So that's how the cover came about. So if you look carefully at the cover, there's a lot of hidden themes in the cover, similar to the first album. The first album was like that as well. Um, my wife and I actually designed the first album cover, um, and but as far as the second album cover, it's very much it's very interesting because there are there's I talk about the Loch Ness monster. There's a Loch Ness. There's a plesiosaur hidden in the album art. There's a kraken on the cover. There's the sigil of Murmur, which is representative of myself, Count Murmur. There's a lot of themes there on the cover that are representative of the album as a whole, and the music of Tine. So, and the artist painted that to perfection. Basically, he painted it to. I believe his name is pronounced Daniel Lupidi. If I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly, I apologize to him. But he hand painted that cover, and he painted it to perfection. So I was so happy with the job that he did painting that cover. Um, but yeah, that's the story of the album cover, and I hope to do something similar on the new album that I'm working on. So in my view, the next question is, in my view, is securing a record label deal essential in today's music industry? I don't necessarily feel it is. I feel record labels are can be a bit toxic, but they can also it's like a double-edged sword. They really can help support bands in that they have a lot of pull in the industry. They have a lot of ability to get the name of a band out there, but they they also can be quite toxic as well, and they can there's a potential to take the band's money and kind of run essentially, like take the band's money and not do much for the band. So um, I've seen both situations happen in the industry. I don't feel that securing a record label is necessarily essential. I don't have a label right now, and there's mixed feelings for me on whether I would accept one if I was given an offer. Um, but for now, I'd say that it's kind of it's 50-50. It's a mixed bag. It depends on the details and what they're offering. I think in some cases it can be a really great thing, and in some cases it can be a really negative thing. So it can be it's a double edged sword there. So um, excuse me. So I would say that for any band out there looking to secure a label, proceed with caution. I'd say make sure that the deal fits your band and make sure that it's going to help your band, and make sure that it's not going to cost your band way more than you're going to make as well. Um, so yeah, hopefully that answers that question. The next question is when did I first get into death metal and what drew me into the genre? So it's interesting because I transitioned to death metal from thrash metal, and the first death metal band that I got into was Morbid Angel, actually. And Morbid Angel, to this day, I still love Morbid Angel. They're not quite what they used to be, but I still absolutely love them. And what drew me to their music was just how aggressive it was, just how it was a big step up from thrash to me as far as aggression, as far as the darkness of it. The messages were more sinister. They explored messages that were even more more aggressive and sinister than thrash metal. So I went from Slayer to Morbid Angel, and Slayer was talking about they were satanic, but then comparatively speaking, Morbid Angel took it to another level, and that's what drew me into the genre. Is it felt very much like I was exploring something that was kind of on the fringes of music. It felt like I was very much exploring something extreme and um, tapping into something very primal, um, and I loved it. It was absolutely amazing. Um, Morbid Angel just really drew me in, and the album, I just remember the album Blessed Are the Sick is the album that really got me into death metal. That album just was killer to me. It just the feel of it, the songs, just everything about it, the vocals, everything just drew me in. The drumming, just it was killer. And from there on out, I continued exploring death metal. I went to Deicide. I went to all the other death metal bands out there, and now I'm a huge fan of, obviously. Now I'm playing death metal as well, playing blackened death metal. So obviously I'm a huge fan of it. But at that time, I was just starting to play music myself, and it was exploring those themes was something new to me, and it really drew me in. Um, so that's kind of my story on how I got into death metal. Yeah, I'm happy to share that with everybody. Um, the next question is, if I could change one thing about the music industry, what would it be? Um, that's a difficult question. I would say I think there's a lot of talent out there that is getting missed. Um, I think the music industry focuses too much on money. Now I understand that it really needs to, because it is a business, right? So it needs to make money. But I think there's a lot of talent out there. There's so much talent. When I go on the various sites and listen to music, there's just so much out there that is just not getting recognized. So, and then I hear these bands that are big, and the talent is just not even close to what I've heard in the underground. So I think that the underground needs to, I think, especially in metal, that some of these underground bands need to be found and and recognized more. So I think in specifically in metal in the music industry, I think it's critical that these bands be found and heard some way, and these record labels need to start tapping into this underground talent instead of just going for the easy quick sell, in many cases that I see out there. So I would say that's what I would change about the music industry. Too much formulaic music out there that I see, and not enough of the unique, really great talent that is not getting heard by anybody because it's just in the underground. Um, so that's what I would say. That's what I would change. Um, the next question is, have I had any unforgettable fails during live performances? So I did have one fail. This is many years ago in a previous band, where I was basically supposed to. The band agreed to that I would use a blood capsule and spit blood at a certain point in the performance, and I recall specifically that the blood capsule just would not break and would not work. It just didn't work. And I wasn't able to spit blood during that part of the performance like I wanted to. And I remember turning to the guitarist and saying basically that I screwed up, and we were continuing to play the song, and I remember turning to the guitar saying I screwed up, and he says that I remember him looking at me puzzled, and and then later in the show, I looked down, there was blood on my shirt, but apparently he revealed to me later that when I looked at him, there was like blood dribbling out of my mouth. So I guess I got the blood capsule to work, but it didn't work as intended. So it was kind of a big fail on my part, and I'll never forget it because just because it was kind of hilarious and kind of the timing was off and everything, and but it ended up not messing up the show at all. So it turned out okay, but it was kind of an unforgettable fail during a live performance. So I would say so that was interesting. So the next question is: are there any recent albums or films that have really impressed me? So I'd say a recent album that impressed me is from a band called Veil of Noth. Everyone pronounces their name Panath, Veil of Panath, but they're actually Veil of Noth. I believe their name's pronounced Noth. Their new album really blew me away. Actually, I never really got into them, and I should have, is what I'm learning, because their new album is just killer. And they're I describe their music as very much, I mean, it's death metal and it's on the technical side, but it's very much blackened, especially their this latest album of theirs, and it really impressed me a lot. I just I don't think they're getting enough recognition, to be honest with you, and I really enjoyed that album a lot, and I can't wait to hear more of their stuff in the future. I think they need more recognition. I think their album was killer. So that would be an album that really impressed me recently. So yeah. So hopefully that answers that question. Next question is, what's my thoughts on the future of death metal as a genre? I would say I think the future is bright for death metal. I see technical death metal doing well, bands doing well, still to this day, like bands like Nile, they're very successful. I go to shows and I see lots of people showing up to the shows, even in inclement weather, and things like that. There's still a lot of people that show up to the shows. A lot of people are buying merch. I think death metal has a great following. I think as a genre, I think it's going to be continue to be very successful. I think a lot more people are into death metal than maybe the mainstream may like to realize, and I think that it has a bright future. And I think that yeah, I don't see death metal dying off anytime soon. I think it has a bright future, to be honest. So that's what I would say about death metal. And how would I describe the current black death metal scene in Pennsylvania? I think it's pretty strong, particularly in the cities, of course, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, the big cities. You see a very strong presence for extreme metal. I was just at a show recently, and it was a great showing for death metal. I was at the Nile show, and it was fantastic. The showing there was great, and that was in the Pittsburgh area. So, in my opinion, the scene is strong, and a lot of people are going to the shows. I think once you spread out from the cities, I think the scene weakens quite a bit. So I think as long as you're in the cities, I think the scene is really strong. I think you need to stay in the cities to really for the scene, for the strength of the scene. That's the only issue, and that's probably the case across the United States. To be honest, is that I think the cities are where the scene is the strongest for any extreme metal. And once you spread out from the cities, I think it becomes, dwindles there. But I think the metal scene's strong in the cities. I think there's a lot of people out there that just come out of the woodwork to come to shows, and you often will get surprised when you go to shows, how many people will show for these bands, and it's great, and it's amazing to see. So I think the scene is great in Pennsylvania, and you know, it's great, especially you tend to see a lot of bands touring in Philadelphia, but Pittsburgh has a strong scene too, and I like to see when bands come to Pittsburgh. I'm in the southwestern Pennsylvania region, so Tine is located in that region. So it's great to see when bands come out to the Pittsburgh area, because Pittsburgh has a strong scene too, and I like to get to see those bands so as well and support them. I don't just create music. I also am a fan of extreme music as well. I love black metal. I love death metal. I love extreme music. So I go to shows when I can, and it's great when these bands come to the Pittsburgh area so I can enjoy them. So it's you know, definitely something that I look forward to. So as far as the next question, what's my all-time favorite death metal album and why? So my favorite album would be Nile's Annihilation of the Wicked. I think that album is a masterpiece. I think it's a death metal masterpiece. I think easily, I think it's top three albums of all time, of all music. I think, and definitely my favorite death metal album of all time. I think it's just a masterpiece. I think everything about that album, from the production to the songwriting, to the lyrics, to the just how catchy the songs are for as extreme as they are. I think Carl and company nailed it with that album. I think, I mean, Nile continues to write great album after great album, but that album is their masterpiece to this day, I think, still. So Annihilation of the Wicked is definitely my favorite album. Nile is probably my favorite death metal band of all time, to be honest. Just Carl's approach to not only the music but to the fans, the community, and to staying consistent and staying true to Nile, to the band, and to every album being so consistent, I think is what metal is all about. So that's my thoughts on my favorite death metal album and my favorite death metal band, as a matter of fact. So there you have it there. So as far as what my favorite death metal album cover and why, this is a tough question for me. I think there's so many album covers to love, but I have to go back to Morbid Angel's "Blessed Are the Sick." I just really love that album cover. I think it's blasphemous. It's what got me into death metal. It's it's artistic and blasphemous at the same time. So that's what makes me really love that album cover. And to this day, I still love it. I think it's one of the best album covers out there for death metal. It has a simplicity to it, but it's blasphemous and sinister and artistic at the same time. So I love that album cover. And there's so many other great album covers out there though that to love. So really, I mean, that would be probably my favorite. But I mean, there's so many great ones from bands like Nile, from from even Morbid Angel has some other great ones. There's I mean, there's great ones. Immolation has some great ones. There's so many great album covers from death metal bands out there. So, Cannibal Corpse. I mean, there's there's some great ones out there. So, it's hard to decide really, but that would be my favorite. So, next question: are what are my plans for Tine's future? So, right now I'm working on my third Tine album. I'll disclose the title in the near future, but it's going to have a wintry, cold feeling to it, as opposed to the previous themes. So I mentioned the last album had that watery, oceanic feel to it. This one's going to have a totally different feel to it. It's going to have a wintry, cold feel to it. So bright future for Tine, new album in the works, and the album may be done this year. So I'm actually actively recording it right now. So we'll see. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned to Tine social media pages for more information about that. But yeah, that album is it's gonna have 8 songs on it. So I can reveal that at least, and it will hopefully be released this year. So we'll see. That's the plan. So bright future for Tine. This will be my third album, full length album. Um, and eventually, I mentioned about Tine's history and about the hope that, one day to play future live shows. I do hope to still do that. Um, if I can find members to play live shows with, um, guitarists, another guitarist perhaps, because right now I do all the duties for Time, but it'd be great to find. I'm willing to do vocals and have someone else pick up the guitar, the bass, drums, do whatever it takes to play the live shows. But I'm willing to do that if I can find the members to support the project. So I still haven't given up on that idea. So it's still on the table. So that's that's in the hopefully in the future we'll see. But for now, it's still a one-piece project, and working on the new album right now. So as far as the last question, do I have any message? Do I have a message for the subscribers of Death Metal Promotion? My message would be to support Death Metal Promotion as much as possible. Death Metal Promotion will brings music from all around the world, death metal from all around the world to the masses, basically. They support death metal bands globally, and it's important to support those bands, listen to the music, and even go to their merch sites, their Bandcamp, wherever their pages are, and support those bands. It's very important because some of these bands are not signed to labels, and they only get the support by you going to their pages. So it's critical to support these bands, and I think Death Metal Promotion's doing a great job supporting these bands and bringing their music to the masses. And I think that's what it's all about. That's what metal's all about, is bringing the music to the masses, bringing underground music out there, bringing extreme music to the forefront. I think that's what it's all about. So Death Metal Promotion's doing a great job of that. So I would say support them and support the bands that they post on the channel, and definitely keep listening. And yeah, and also as far as Time, definitely check out the social media pages and of my band Tine, and check out the Bandcamp site and buy some merch. There are CDs available for purchase, so definitely do that, and I appreciate the support. So with that, that was the last question. So I think that concludes the interview here. But definitely reach out to me, Count Murmur, for any further questions about Time, or any questions about the music. I'm open to respond to anything, any questions about the band or the music, and definitely reach out if you're interested in any merch, or any questions about the new album coming up. So definitely welcome that. So thank you for your time, and definitely continue supporting Death Metal Promotion, and stay metal.